I'll just wait for the interpreters. Everybody ready? All right. Please welcome the director of the film, someone you will recognize well. He's not just the director in this case. Olivier Bernier. Did I do that correctly?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a beautiful film. I have to say, it's beautiful. I'll just wait for the interpreter, please. 1 second. Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful film. It's so well made, but it's also a really important film. And I love a film that has a real call to action to the audience at the end. And we'll definitely try to emphasize that as much as possible. I want to start by asking you, of course, what's happened since then? Where's Emilio today? And how has this film had an impact?
Well, there was an entire pandemic in between then and now. But right now, Emilio's fully included in kindergarten, and he's doing great. Thanks for asking.
I'm going to jump for a second into the filmmaking process because I'm curious about that. There's so much to talk here about, just like, the concepts of what the film is trying to bring to the surface. But the process, first of all, I noticed that you had an inclusive crew, which I cannot applaud you more. I don't think that you're probably the only one, actually. We don't see enough of that. And how did that happen? How did that come together?
Well, it was something I was interested in, just thinking about my own son and, the bias of wanting him to work in the film industry when he gets older. So I wanted to see how it would work. But also we were making a film about inclusion. How could we not have an inclusive film crew? So we had a lot of learning along the way. But it was the best experience, that I've ever had on set, to be honest with you. It just changed the whole vibe on set. And I think everyone had a good experience.
How did you, I have to ask, just maybe I'm the only one curious about this, but where do you find an inclusive crew? I know this is something that we get questions at Surreal Abilities all the time. We're always asked, can you connect us to disabled filmmakers? And you manage, I think there were even some members of the set who specifically had Down syndrome, so you were going for a very relatable topic. How did you bring that together?
It was actually our producer, I believe, reached out to a lot of people, including Real Abilities, and we were connected to people that way. To tell you the truth, it's almost too difficult to find people to work on set. We were paying people, which is the first thing, and a lot of times, people can't get paid or else they lose their benefits as adults, so that's the first issue. But, I can go on a whole soapbox about adults working with disabilities, so yeah. But we did find people, but it is difficult. Yeah.
We have a space for that, too. and hopefully we helped find someone. Let me ask you also, you must have been filming from early on, because that's what you do. When did you know when did you start making this film? What was the moment that said, oh, I have a film here, I have something that I need to tell, and now I'm actually really turning this camera on?
I think the genesis of the film really began the day Emilio was born. I knew immediately. I was so kind of shell-shocked by the moment, and I was so, in a way, upset at myself that I was shell-shocked in the moment and didn't know what to do, and I wanted to discover why that was. And the more I thought about it, I realized that, I was unprepared for Emilio just because I had never met anyone with Down syndrome going to school. And I went to school right over the river in Jersey, a school of 3,000 people, and I never had someone with disabilities in my class. So then I started looking at what I wanted for Emilio, and I wanted him to be included in society because I thought that was the only way he could, enjoy all the beauty of the world. So that kind of led me on this path of inclusive education and making the film. But it was really a couple years into his life that we started making the film.
And there's so much within the film, of course, that that we can open up here. I'm wondering, after putting this all together, what did you learn? What do you think? We've all been convinced. I think we're usually, after you've seen this movie, now you're definitely preaching to the choir. If it wasn't like that before. What do you think is the argument? Why? What's going on there? I mean, you got to really point out some what looked like sketchy sides of the system, secret phone calls. Amazing that you managed to capture all of this. But what do you think the hesitance is? Why aren't they moving? Why aren't they hearing this argument?
I think there's many reasons, but the main reason is that there's just still an institutional mindset, not only in New York City, but everywhere. I think there's a barrier between people that are typically developing and people that have disabilities because, like myself, I wasn't raised with children with disabilities. So there's a misunderstanding that they can't learn at the same pace or be in the same classroom. So I think it's a barrier that's set up by society and, propagated by the school system, really.
I also fear I'll throw in I heard somebody say political here. I also think that there's financial elements that people might fear that this can upset a system that they have in place. And,
it's the financial component of it is really interesting because, I believe in 2021 in New York City, they spent close to $1 billion sending students with disabilities to private school. That's in New York City alone. So, I think the program's actually very well funded. And the truth is what you're doing with inclusive education is you're breaking up these small segregated classes and just bringing those same teachers into a larger general education class. So I don't know exactly that it's a finance issue. I think it's maybe a political issue, but it's a political issue in the sense that people aren't talking about it enough.
I should have said off the start that I myself have a learning disability, and my son was diagnosed with a learning disability recently, and we went through the system, and it's a nightmare on every level. We didn't get to capture the secret conversations that you had to deal with, and but it's definitely it takes, and I give credit to others who pushed us through the system. It takes an army to be able to just get kind of a fair education and an equal education, and it's a ongoing battle. You never really get to rest, and I give a lot of credit for actually exposing this and bringing this to the public. You give in the cards at the end, you tell a little bit of what people should be doing, but really with this film now that it's out there, what's your call to action? And then we'll take some questions from you guys, so be ready.
Well, I think my answer on that is a little different in New York City. Speak to the audience that I'm assuming lives in New York City, because the first thing is there's no reason that District 75 should still exist, in my opinion. That's the number one thing, is District 75 should disappear. Those students should be absorbed into general education classrooms, and I think that's the number one thing in New York City. The second thing is that, it's really, we have to look at what we want for the outcome of students with disabilities. Do we want them to be part of society, or do we want them hidden from society? And really, in the end, it all starts in the classroom. Our classroom should mirror the society we want to live in. So, I think looking at that, how do we all collectively create a classroom that mirrors the society we want to live in?
Thank you. Folks, I'd love to make you a part of this. I'll also take a moment to once again thank our partners. Thank Include NYC, our Center for Family Life here at the JCC, as well as our Center for Special Needs. Anybody have any questions? We're going to pass the microphone around so it's accessible to all.
Thank you. So I just want to congratulate you on the film and thank you for making it. Sorry, my name is Kale White. I work in the Center for Special Needs here at the JCC Manhattan, and I'm also a parent of 2 children with disabilities and the sibling of one. And I was initiated into the system over 30 years ago when I attended one of my brother's first IEP meetings, and it was a nightmare then, and it remains a nightmare to this day. And so I congratulate you. I thank you for exposing the system.
Thank
Also, I just want to let you know that I currently help individuals who have disabilities and are seeking employment to maintain their benefits. So if you ever have an issue with any of that, I'm here as a resource if you need help with that. I help with benefits.
Awesome.
So you can get my contact info through the JCC. And we actually have a wonderful French company that are joining us here today that are hoping to bring an inclusive model for restaurants here to the U.S. and are hoping to open their first location here in Manhattan. So, I'd like to connect you with them with you afterwards. So I just wanted to know, did you show this to the administration at the DOE? And if yes, what was their reaction to the film?
I'm sure they've seen the film by now, but we didn't show it to them. We did share a link with them ahead of the film being released publicly. We hadn't heard back from them. I do know that in Staten Island, they showed the film to all the special education administration, and there was some really good reactions and good conversation from what I understand. So I think, we really made this film for people to watch and have an opinion on it and to start a conversation. So I hope that's happening in some capacity.
Thank you for making a film. It's long overdue. I'm an early intervention and special ed mediator, and I see parents and have cases all the time. Your film was very poignant to the fact that all that was in it was the basics, and it takes you through. Although you didn't go to mediation, but I would say the first thing in the film would be to get an advocate. An advocate is very important. The next step is that when you go to an IEP meeting, get it in writing. Because once they say one day, the next day it changes, as you showed in the film. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll take one right down here.
Thank you. My name is Marcia Callender. I'm first and utmost a parent. From my first child, I have two children who had IEPs. And I remember Willowbrook. I was sort of in the midst of raising a child who was segregated and was set aside, but also a parent that found a voice, that used to be afraid to talk in front of public, but when you fight for your kids, you find your voice. One of the things I want to say, it's a beautiful film. I felt your wife throughout, and it's poignant, it's very powerful, but in that you also develop a strength in a fight, and it's an ongoing fight. What I thought was very sad is that I started my fight some 30 years ago. This film could have been made 30 years ago. It would have been right on point. It's pathetic and almost criminal, negligent, inhumane that this film is still so relevant today. We've taken a definite pendulum shift backwards, and I hope this movie, as I'm still in the fight, I feel like a dinosaur. I was telling my friend Jacqueline I'm going to change my ringtone to the theme of Jurassic Park, because I think I'm the only one still left out here fighting. But I hope that this film becomes the new Willowbrook, to really have that same impetus that Willowbrook had to say, this is just inhumane and outrageous, and we really need to make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you.
Why did you choose to include? I mean, obviously the comparisons with Willowbrook are important, but at what point did you choose to use that footage, and where that decision did that decision come from?
Well, I really wanted to show, how far we've come as well. Willowbrook wasn't that long ago, and what an awful, awful place, but we have so much further to go, and I just wanted to show people that we can make a difference. It was parents that shut down Willowbrook, and you know, we can take that next step as parents and keep the fight going.
I think we have a question here.
I have a comment. I thought I liked the movie a lot. It was very good. I was very impressed by the characters and the ambition, and it was very good. I'm very impressed by it. I just want to say it was really good.
Thank you so much.
As we move the mic around to our last two comments here, one of the things I loved about the film, as I was watching it, I kept saying, I want to see more of you and your emotional process, because you really put your wife out there and your partner and showing her process. You sometimes hide behind the camera, and then you put yourself in front of the camera at the end, and you give that emotional moment, which I just thought was beautiful, and a great way to put it all out there, and a great story arc too.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for this movie. It's a really, really important movie, I think, to show. Definitely for parents, definitely for changing the system. I'm from France. It's the same deal out there. I feel like it's the same deal everywhere. There's really a lack of perspective. I'm a sibling. My older brother has a cognitive disability, and I just want to say that on behalf of siblings, it's really important. Sorry. I was very moved by your movie. To understand what our parents have gone through and go through, and how we can also be an active part of the story. And I think your movie really helps with that, because it's sometimes really difficult to move forward in life in a family that is very preoccupied. So I think that for siblings too, it's a really important movie. And I saw a friend of mine in your cast, in your film crew from Zeno Mountain Farm, Sean Barton. Yeah.
Awesome.
For those of you who don't know Zeno Mountain Farm, you must check what it is, xenomountainfarm.org. I don't work for them. It's really just something that's wonderful. It's a place that welcomes people with and without disabilities around creative projects. And it's camps, but there's no counselors, there's no helpers, there's no campers. It's really everybody's on an equal base, and that's very rare. So, yeah. Thank you so much.
And Zeno Mountain Farm helped produce one of our opening night films, Best Summer Ever, which, if you haven't seen, you should check it out on Hulu, I believe. One last question down here.
Hi. First of all, my name is Lynn Bartner-Wiesel. I am on the selection committee for the Real Abilities Film Festival and a co-chair. This film stood out for me, and I really wanted it to be one of our opening night or closing night films. It's so important, so thank you so much. I am a parent of a child with a disability on the autism spectrum, and we went through this process and spent a lot of money on lawyers and etc. I've been to the Board of Ed, and I've seen parents begging for placement for their kid who should have been in school 6 months waiting for a decision. And I'm wondering if Mayor Adams has been made aware of this film. I know he was at our film festival. He came out telling our audience on opening night that he was dyslexic, and I'm wondering if you may have heard anything from him, because we have a direct pipeline, I think, for change with...
I would love, first of all, thank you, and I would love to share the film with him, because I think that's where we could have a lot of impact. Unfortunately, we've sent the film out to the mayor's office, and we haven't heard back. Previous mayor. So, you know, I'm hoping that Mayor Adams, you know, can do something. I know, you know, the current administration is doing a lot for students with disabilities, and I hope that it leads to systemic change. So, yeah, I would love to share the film with him.
So the most important thing is, of course, I hope all of you know that everybody you know should be seeing this film. You do not have to have just a sibling or be a parent of. I think this film is relatable to absolutely, first of all, anyone with a heartbeat, but anyone who also cares about our city, cares about our society, cares about our world. So hopefully you can help spread the word and let people know to see this film. I think it speaks for itself. What else should they be doing? Where should they be going?
Well, of course, sharing the film is a great start. We made the film to share it. I think, and also the film's available for free streaming on Tubi. There's advertisement, but you can watch it for free. So there's, a link on our website, forgetmenotdocumentary.com. But I think the most important thing is a grassroots campaign. I think the law is there. The law is strong. The problem is that you have to spend a ton of money to fight for the law. And as you see in the film with Aiden and his father, they've been fighting for years. They're still fighting today. And those are years lost for the student. So, I think the most important thing you can do is share the film with parents of neurotypical children. I think we don't go over it that much in the film, but there's a lot of advantages for all students to inclusive education. And I think if we're going to create a society that has empathy, that wants to create a place, that wants to change the world for people with disabilities, it starts with looking at our schools and how to, set up the next generation for success. So that's my spiel.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for this film. Thank you so much for this message. Folks, there are postcards outside where you could grab more information. Please help spread the word, and please join us for more events. Mark your calendars. Real Abilities Films Festival is April 27th till May 3rd. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for coming.